Hello, Richard. Good to see you. How are you today?
I'm very well, Les. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Congratulations on your anniversary. How did the party go? Have you recovered from a party already?
Yeah, well, I mean, the party was absolutely amazing. Recovery is is on the way. I actually came down with a bit of a cold a few days beforehand, and so I was dosed up on Lemsip and ibuprofen.
Hmm.
But yeah, so no, it went absolutely amazingly. We had over I think 151 students, alumni, sort of family members all coming along. Yeah, it was such a brilliant night.
It was 20 years, right? Or 25?
20. So it's 20 years for the karate, and then we were also celebrating 5 years of the Tai Chi that's been running as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, what's your origin story? How did you get into martial art? And
Uh, I like many people. I started off as a youngster. I was like 6 years old. My mum threw me and my brother into a karate club in I think it was a Wadaroo club in West Wickham in Kent. Excuse me. We trained for I think less than a year, and we never did any gradings. We did all the classes. At the
uh
time, my mum worked evenings, so when she would get home early hours of the morning, she would just sleep, and the gradings were always as many of us when we run gradings. They're on a sort of Sunday, either morning or lunchtime, so we never got to go. And then we moved home, and again, sort of same story that I guess many of us have is like, okay, once you move, it's like, okay, well, there's no clubs nearby, and so we stopped. And I always wanted to get back into it, even at that young age. I thought, yeah, I really like karate. I really like martial arts, and it was when I turned 15. I'd actually started looking for clubs, but never really found sort of anything that I could get to. Uh, and at the same time, sort of that summer, I went on holiday, sort of first sort of teenagers holiday, sort of no parents. Me and my best friend at the time, so we went out to Camber Sands. I think it was a Pontins, um, and had an amazing time. But sadly, it ended up really bad because we got beat the living stuff out of on the beach, left unconscious as a really nasty situation. And when I got back and took like about maybe nearly a year to get over that, and I didn't want to leave the house, I was terrified. And then I got a knock on the door. I think it was spring, yes, early spring '97, I think it was. And the guy, so you may know him, Richard Canton. He knocked on my door. He at the time was working for GKR, and did all the usual spiel. And of course, I joined, and I trained with them for up until 2000. Um, and then there was the first big split that went on there, and sort of I followed my instructor into Kenshikai. Excuse me. Continued training and got all the way up to my second dan. Was working full time with Kenshikai as well. So I was teaching, training pretty much yeah, so 5, 6 days a week. So I'd be in the dojo during the day, like 4 days, and then in the evening I would sort of go and assist in classes or go and train in a class. And then if there was ever anything going on a weekend, I would just go and train. Just jump in. Oh, do you need any help in the grading? Yeah, okay, I'll go and stand and train. Or you could actually train in line in the grading at those times. Um, and yeah, and then 2003, I had the opportunity to move to Essex and start running sort of classes for the association then. And so I was like, brilliant, right, I'm going to go and do that. And stayed with them for 2 years. And then 2005, my instructor at the time, he decided that he was going to be leaving. I didn't want to stick around, so I left as well. and I've been pretty much independent ever since. So I started training separately in Goju and Shotokan. I got to train with some brilliant instructors like George Andrews. Um, there was a Shotokan club sort of local to me who was sort of fairly prominent at the time. And yeah, so I just jumped in and followed two separate paths with that. And a couple of years into that, found Seiwakai. I was introduced to Leo Lipinski, and yeah, I was with him until he passed. Uh, got to go to loads of different seminars. I've always loved exploring, so I'll go and if there was something that was of interest, I'd be like, okay, I'll go in. It's like, what is it? Oh, it's a jiu-jitsu seminar. Okay, well, let's give this a go. Or it's a pressure point seminar. I'll go and give that a go and just see sort of what sparks my interest. I even studied Iaido for a while. Both Caroline and I, so we actually went in at the time with our instructor. It was a little club in, where was it? I think North Stifford was one, and there was another one that was in Kent. A guy called Tom Grogan, who was very good. He was one of Okamitsu Fuji Sensei students. Really nice guy, but very grumpy old man. So I think as many sort of senior martial artists tend to become, so we start turning into grumpy old men. Uh,
I think it's just man.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so we really liked him, and he used to terrify us in the most incredible way. So you'd stand there and you'd be practicing your cuts and your techniques and drills, and he'd go like, so, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm cutting, sensei. So like, no, you're not. You're just pissing them off. And then he would say, all right, don't move. Oh, okay. And he would stand just ever so slightly to the side of us, or one of us, and would swing his sword down, and it'd go past your shoulder, make this big whooshing sound. He's like,
Mm.
right, that's what you're doing. Oh, okay. And then he'd move slightly so he's almost in front of you. And he'd swing the sword again, and it would just whip past your ear and stop about an inch above your collarbone.
Mhm.
And he's like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. I was like, oh, okay, right. Thanks, Sensei. I'll go and practice. He's like, all right. Um, yeah, then Caroline became sort of pregnant with our eldest, Amelia. So she stopped her training for a little while. And I ended up having to stop the Iaido because I had to go and switch and take over the class that she used to run.
Mhm.
And yeah, we've always been on like this exploratory journey. Um, and it's just really nice, sort of just getting that experience with different instructors. We were a part of Seiwakai for 16 years. I think you already know about this. We left March last year. Um, and yeah, we haven't affiliated with anyone or gone off to any other groups at this stage. We're members of GKC Global, so we do stuff with the Paul and Michelle Enfield, who are absolutely wonderful instructors. I did a lot of their online stuff sort of during COVID, and then whenever they had live seminars, I'd do my best to attend there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I've been doing Kabuto for a couple of years now. And what else? I did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu on and off. Sort of got to blue belt with that. And then just through injuries, I just couldn't continue. But I think yeah, I'm pretty sure that's my training wrapped up.
So yeah, we met through Paul and Michelle on
Yes,
their first seminar in UK, wasn't it?
yeah, it was that 2018, 2019?
Something
Around
like that. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
terrible with memory and dates, so I can't remember. But I remember that we've been training together
Mm,
as a pair up. So it was interesting.
yeah.
So you are a all the time full-time instructor, right? So your job, your first job was to be a karate instructor. Is
Um,
that it?
well, yeah, I had sort of little part time jobs as you do as a teenager. So I
Uh-huh.
worked in Tesco's doing the shelf stacking. I worked in a cab office on the phones. So I was like, what was it Cannon Cars in Hayes? I'm pretty sure they're still going. So I'm quite amazed that I could actually remember the name of the place. But yeah, so look, I do lots of little jobs, but my first, I guess, proper full time job was actually doing karate. So selling the memberships and working in a team and building up to get to a point where I could then run an area myself.
Mm. So lots of so you're kind of living a many people's dreams because when I was younger, I was dreaming to be a full-time instructor, but my dad convinced me that karate is not a job. He wasn't in Poland at the time, so you need to go and get some different jobs. So yeah, congratulations on living the dream of a martial arts instructor from the very first job.
Thank you very much.
Lots of people have a negative opinion about GKR. But what I can see the excelling at, I don't want to go into political stuff that doesn't interest me at all. Um, but they seems to be very good with marketing and organizing the lessons and drawing people in. They have you learn a lot from that because you've got a very successful club. You've got lots of students. Do you think that the experience in that kind of sales team helped you a lot with that kind of confidence to go there and get the students?
Oh, absolutely. I think if it wasn't for sort of my time with them, sort of in sort of GKR and then in Kenshukai, excuse me, it gave me so many tools about how to run things from a business perspective. Um, like politics stuff aside, it was a very well oiled, well run machine. Um, so being able to format things, standardize a progression. So, right, you start here, you go, blah, 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 and you follow those steps. Um, I, uh, I have no idea how they do things now because obviously the world has changed. Um, but 20, 28 years later, I still remember my door script.
Hmm.
When we were going around knocking on the doors, we had a set script that we would use. And I still speak to friends who were in that same sort of team or in that same era, and we jokingly say, like, "Do you still remember your door script?" They're like, "Yeah." It was just ingrained. So that repetition, that methodical, um, just keep on going. Uh, and also being like from a sales training point of view, it's one of the hardest things to do sales, I would say, especially in that direct, like you approach as many people as possible, and like just being having no said to you all the time. And anyone who does door to door is like, I tip my hat off to them. Whether it's they're doing door to door or they're making phone calls like in an office, trying to get sales for things. Uh, I will always be very polite to them because I know how hard that job is. To
Mhm.
have no said to you repeatedly again and again, you could have like 100 people say no before you get one person says yes. Uh, so it certainly gave me a resilience and tenacity to just keep going, even when like it feels like no one's interested. Oh, like we open up a class, is like, are we going to get any new students in? So yeah, I'm really grateful for the time that I had there. I would certainly say the pros and the good times most definitely outweighed the negatives. Um, yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are just starting? Let's say like myself, we've got a small dojo. We want to improve the amount of people coming in through the through the doors? What would be like a key point you would say that would help them the most?
I think awareness is probably one of the biggest things. Is just finding as many ways as you can to make people know who you are, that you exist. Um, I think we've got quite a strong social media presence. But even like before social media and then like everything being online was a thing, uh, we were doing flyer drops. We were doing we did quite a few demos. Demos never really pulled any new members. I know for some people, demos go like, oh yeah, we got like 10 new people. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? We do like 5 demos and we might get like 3 inquiries.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, just that letting everyone know that you're there. I think nowadays it's easier,
Mhm.
because you can go on your local Facebook groups, you can go sharing various posts, you can interact with more people in a shorter amount of time. Whereas, yeah, sort of 10, 20 years ago, probably more close to 20 years ago, it was a lot harder. You have to physically go out there, sort of get your butt out on the road and do stuff so people could see. Oh yeah, it's like, that's that karate club. Which one is it? Oh, so yeah, yeah, just raising awareness of like letting everyone know that you're there. I think would
Mm.
be the one of the biggest first steps.
Every kind of style or system got their own ways and and protocols and techniques and variable way of teaching. You obviously went through few changes. What were the keystones for you, like going from a GKR to Kenshinkai, you said? Or
Yeah, Kenshukai.
yeah.
Yeah,
Then you went to Seivakai as well. That's Goju-Ryu.
yeah.
What was that road and what was the impact of and what I have to switch, relearn or adapt? Can you take us through that journey? What was the steps of changing between those styles?
Yeah. Well, Kenshukai was just essentially a carbon copy of GKR in terms of the karate that was taught, when I was there. So when we left, and both were mixed styles, like the Shotokan and Goju. So when we left Kenjukai, I wanted to get a better understanding of the two styles that made up the karate that I'd been training in for the last however many years. So there was a bit of a challenge at first of separating everything. So because I would be doing Goju Kata with Shotokan Kihon and then vice versa, and so getting my head around that, I think it took a good year or two to really get a clear separation. So we'd do sort of our sort of circular down blocks if we were doing Gekasai or Cypher or Seiyun Chin, and if we did like Basadai, we'd make sure it was like a linear style
Mhm.
block. And then the stance changes. Eventually, because I pursued sort of both separate, and then I graded independently in both as well. And it was, I think, once I'd reached, I think like third or fourth Dan, in both. I sort of kind of came to that realization. It's like I've got to choose one. I can't keep going in these directions. It's like they both work well, but it's too much for me at least. So I sat down with our black belts and senior instructors team at the time and told them kind of what I was feeling, and they were all like, "Yep, let's do this." So we made the conscious decision, the purpose to switch to just doing Goju. I think that was maybe around 2011.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, yeah, or maybe sometime between 2011 and 2013. I'm not. entirely sure when, but it's around about that time because it's that's even then that's feels like a lifetime ago.
It's funny and interesting to me because I went through the same because I'm from kind of Kyokushin background plus Ashihara, and we've got both Goju and Shotokan katas,
Mm,
and it's the like you try to do something and it's like a conflict in the middle. It's like oh, which way I should go, right? Yeah, either
yeah.
this way or this way, and my heart is more towards a Goju because
Mm,
it's close contact. So
mm.
I done the same, and we kind of eradicated the Shotokanisms from it, and trying to do we kept some of the Shotokan kata, but we do them in a Goju way, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay, that'd be interesting.
So we've obviously our own take on it. I'm kind of don't have that hindering traditional approach. I can because I'm
Mm,
from a modern style. I can do whatever I want pretty much. So
yeah.
we're taking our take. I don't have to stick to it. But I'm interested. Why you choose Goju Ryu?
Um, I th- uh, I know why I would choose it now. And I'm pretty sure it's something along those lines at the time. Uh, the depth. I think the difference
What,
in like, just the
choose
number
your
of
words carefully. Choose your
I,
words carefully.
yes, yes. I'll be very, very careful how I phrase this. So, well, on a simplistic term, there's the number of kata. Like Goju, you got 12 kata or um, 17 if you include the takioko. And then Shotokan, you got 26.
Mm,
Um, and I remember when I was sort of training in both, is like whichever grade it was you were going through. So in the Shotokan, you'd have at like third Q or second Q, you have like five kata that you got to be
mm,
doing. And I'm like, okay, like I'm consider myself pretty quick to pick up patterns, so I can go through a kata and give me a week and I'll have the pattern down.
mm,
I won't be perfect at it, but I'll remember the sequence. Um, so it wasn't so much of an issue when I was doing Shotokan. So I'd go, all right. So I've got to learn Kankadai, Basasho, and MP, and whichever ones. But I felt like I was just getting only on the surface with it. Whereas when I would go and train in Goju, I'd be doing just Cypher or Seiunchin. I just do that one kata and going through this the pattern of it, and I go, okay, now you're thinking about this, like you're dropping your weight or you're transferring from here. Your energy's different. Your center is high or low. You're soft. You're hard. You're light. And it
mm,
was a lot more. It felt to me at the time there was a lot more to study.
mm,
Um, we and I've got loads of friends who do Shotokan, and I think if you got the right instructors, there are some absolutely phenomenal Shotokan people out there. Uh, at the time, I remember we would kind of have a bit of a joke and say, "All right, so what's the difference between learning Shotokan kata versus learning Goju kata?" So, well, Goju kata, you're going to spend ages just trying to figure out all the intricacies of how to move your body. Shotokan kata, he's got to get the basic pattern, and then there's that one challenging bit, might be like a jump and twist.
mm.
Uh, that the one flashy move in the kata, and then you got it. I was like, okay, and we got a joke that way for a while. I know it's more to it than that, but that's kind of how it was presented to us at the time. Wherever we train, so I got to train with a few different Shotokan groups, um, and maybe it was a case of, well, this guy's not one of our members, so we're not going to give him sort of too much. But I'd even go to seminars where like there'd be an instructor teaching 100, 200 people, all Dan grades in Shotokan within the association. I'd got invited to come along, and it was still the same. So I was like, okay, well, where's the depth? Well, I want to understand more. Um, and yeah, just I found it was easier to study the depth and get more of the intricacies within Goju. Um, that being said, I do quite like doing a bit of Shotokan from time to time.
Well, the linear punches are working, right? It
Oh
feels
yeah,
something powerful from it. But for me personally, it's just the feel. There is a distinct feel of the movement, and I think that just different people are suited differently, right? We're both quite short, so
yeah,
I think we like to be close and do that smooth movements and transitions instead of keeping people at the distance when you are longer limbs. That's easier, right? I think
yeah.
that's just the kind of distinction. How did the BJJ impacted your karate? Did you notice any changes how you look on the techniques, or you treat it as completely separate learning path?
Um, I went into it as with the objective as like a separate learning path, as you say. Um, the more that I did it, the more I saw Goju. Um, Even my coach at the time, Lee Catling, he was a black belt in karate as well. But I think it was quite a long time ago. So whenever he was teaching me, like because he knew that I had a karate background, he would say, "Oh, when you're doing this, this is like your mind gary, your front kick." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then when you're doing this, this is like your down block. I was like, okay." And every time I would go and sort of train and roll, I'd be like, "This is Goju."
Mm.
Uh, there's such a close connection to it, um, and again, it's another one of those arts where you get your ass handed to you more often than not. You get squashed, you get crunched, you get folded up like a pretzel, and then you get up back up and you go, "That was great. Let's do it again."
Yeah.
Um, the the there were a lot of positives when I was doing that. I thought Lee was a fantastic coach, and the other coaches that I got to train with as well, both sort of during and after COVID. Uh, um, the understanding of the body mechanics sort of got taken to another level.
Mhm.
Sort of just how the joints move, how the body handles different pressures, um, and how using that pressure you could use to your advantage. And a lot, I would then kind of merge that into my goju, and it just became more and more similar than different. Um, uh, the only probably the only two downsides, the two negatives that I had. One was if you got injured, is it just meant you were out and you couldn't train until you were healed. Um, Certainly from my perspective, where I'm teaching karate for a living, I have a physical job, so I need to be able to move. So if I got something injured in BJJ, then that would affect my ability to teach karate.
Mhm.
The I have a shoulder issue, which is still ongoing. It's a lot better now, but that was caused from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and the tear that I got at the time took me out of that for over 18 months. I had like very little movement in the shoulder. I was like, okay, well, how am I gonna sort of keep working if I'm broken all the time? So I had to sort of make a decision and go, right, I'm going to step away from this for a moment. It's not worth the risk. So injuries being one, ego was the other. Usually from the younger guys in the gym, sort of over enthusiastic, uh, whatever their mentality was, is like, and okay, okay, right, let's roll. It's like, I remember sort of being in my sort of mid late 30s and roll with someone who was like 19, 20 years old, and of course, like they're younger, fitter, faster, and stronger, but no regard for the safety of their partner. It's like if they're gonna sort of go for a pass, they'd wrench your body across, wrench your arm, like steamroll you as fast as they could, and like pin as hard. You're like, we're getting nothing out of this. Um, so I learned very quickly. So if I was rolling with someone like that, it's like I just let them do what they want. It's like if they want to move, right, I'll tap. They're going to pass through. All right, go on then. It's like it's not worth getting injured for. And then some of the best people that I ever got to roll with were people my own age or older. So anyone who was like 40 plus, it was always so chilled. And I never got injured, never got any kind of massive pain other than, all right, the submission's going on. And they would know, like when it's about to go, they would know when I'm about to tap. And it was always playful. There was no ego there. Uh, but yes, I'd love to go back to it at some point. But with everything that's gone on in the last few years, it's not something I can really fit in.
Yeah, I've got pretty similar story. I started the BJJ 11 years ago, and one of the guys, unfortunately, as well, Polish, judo black belt, didn't want to be submitted because I done wrestling, so I done quite well with him, and he just tore my elbow to pieces and took me 6 months. And at the time, I was massaging and working physically in a tent business, so you're putting up the tents all the time, heavy frame. So I decided, no, I'm not gonna do it. But now I'm back by accident in the same gym, different location. It's where our gym is now, and it's totally different group and dynamics. Everybody's so chill. Even the young people. It's not a massive gym. There's about 25 people on the mats on the time. But there's quite a few guys who are over 40, like you said, and it's completely different. It's a good fun. It's challenging, but
Hmm.
people have got that understanding. If I injure you, you're gonna injure me, and then we both out of it, and just respect each other, have fun. But plus my ego changed. At that time, 10 years ago, I should have just tap out instead of holding it for dear life because I'm stronger and I can prove the point, right? So now I just do just like you said. Well, you've got a clear position. I know you're gonna tap. Before that happens, I'm already tapping
Yeah.
just to preserve my safety. And doing it once a week helps as well because I've got
Hmm.
a week to recover from it.
Yeah.
So changing the subject a little bit, how did the martial arts impacted your mental health, or you are doing it forever so you don't know?
Um, I think it's helped me in, I guess, more ways than I can imagine. When I started back up, I was 15, 16 years old. Yeah, 16 years old, and I was very scared. Obviously, because of the trauma of having the living stuff knocked out of you by several people. Um, and I was, yeah, very scared, very shy, very unconfident. I think that transitioned a lot into sort of being bullied. I mean, I didn't have the best time in secondary school. I was the second smallest person in my year, so which made me a bit of a target. Um,
I'm gonna jump in here because you are Asian descent, right?
yeah, in a way, Mauritian.
Mauritian, yeah. Okay, but you like my wife. My wife is half British, half Thai, and kind of similar to your age. And because she looks a tiny little bit different than rest of the folk here, she had the same issues in school, being bullied and stuff. And martial arts helped her in a way as well. So I was wondering if that kind of was part of bullying or just general bullying.
I think like in the 80s, definitely there was racism there. I'd be getting called all sorts of things. And back then people thought nothing of it. But you wouldn't dream of saying anything like that now. And if any kids do, it's like the world just comes down on them. The 90s, sort of early teens is like, okay, yeah, there would have been a little bit, probably not as noticed. I think the world started to wake up a little bit more. Uh, excuse me, the yeah, the bullying would, I don't think so. The largest part of it was sort of kind of racial. It was more because I was quiet, because I was shy, um, and then sometimes I would overcompensate and go the other way and be really cheeky and cocky, and that would often put me in deep water. Uh, so yeah, so when I started doing karate, I can't remember sort of how I was when I first did it because I was only 6 years old. So I have memories of doing line drills and either the instructor or the senpai in telling us instead of shout ki, shout beans or sausages and Rice Krispies. And I was just like, and I thought it was hilarious. I loved it, and it's like a memory, like a core memory that's stuck in my head. Um, and in yeah, so the sort of the later teens, the karate gave me confidence to stand up for myself, to actually speak to people and reach out and try and build friendships. I had sort of quite a small circle growing up, and so yeah, I'd make friends with people in the dojo, and then that would transition to friendship outside of the dojo. Uh, uh, I met my wife through karate, so it's definitely been a good thing. Uh, yeah, just the I guess the impact, like the mental health impact, it helped with creating some stability and some direction and something to focus on. Uh, I've found over the years that whenever sort of everything just seems to be going to hell and like it's just life becomes a mess. It's like you go in the dojo and you know everything's in order, right?
Mm.
You can that moment like you bow as you walk through the doors. It's like okay, I'll leave my baggage outside. I'll deal with it in an hour or an hour and a half or a couple of hours. Um, and yeah, and just that being at peace.
Mm.
Um, like you have your karate friends or your martial arts friends, your BJJ friends, wherever, whatever martial art that you do.
Mm.
uh,
Also, from the sorry, cutting in. Also from the time you've been an instructor and teaching so many people, you must have seen the different impact that martial arts have on those kids who come and train with you and now growing up. Did you notice that that helps a bit, that changes the people and
oh, absolutely. The when we had our sort of party at the weekend, we had students that have been with us for 20 years. There's we gave out a couple of awards. One of them was to one of our black belts who was with us in our previous association. So he's actually been training for 22 years, 21, 22 years. And he was this tiny little cheeky 6 year old. Started training with Caroline at first, and yeah, so he was at the party. He lives in Hertfordshire now, so he's not even local, but he still comes and trains. And yeah, he's 27 now, and this incredible adult, um, really mature, really responsible. I would call him an inspiration to the other students. Um, and watching or getting to be a part of people's lives, especially with kids as they grow up, seeing that transition from like primary school, secondary school, then they become older teenagers, they go to college, uni, they become adults. And then when it comes full circle and they've got kids and they go,
Mm.
hey, Sensei, I've got my kid is 5 years old. Can I bring them to the dojo? I'm like, what now? Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
It's not been that long, has it? It's like, yeah. And it's such a wonderful thing. And I spoke about this at our party during the speeches, and I can't think of many things better than that, more rewarding. Um, than being a positive impact on a child's life as they grow up, and whether they carry on training or not. We have more that don't continue that do.
Mm.
Um, but even to this day, I'll still get messages from. This is the joys of social media. I'll get messages from students who I've not seen in over a decade. My first junior black belt, he's got to be 30 now, or at least close to it. He calls me up like a couple of times a year, and we just have a chat.
Mm.
I think he's a rugby coach or a rugby scout, um,
Oh.
and he always says just that the impact that karate had on his life, he still uses the stuff that he learned, not obviously the physical techniques, but all the confidence, the discipline, the focus, the direction. And I'm like, wow, I was like, that's amazing. It's kind of mind blowing because 20 years ago, when we set up our club, I would never have dreamed of something like that happening, and us being where we are today, and all these people that we've managed to help.
Mm. So what makes your club or style unique? Because you blended obviously all your experiences from the other stuff. What makes you to stand out?
um, I don't. I'm not sure if the style itself does stand out. I mean, we're still Goju. Um, uh, I think the big kind of thing that's become a realization for us is the having that balance of Japanese and Okinawan. Um, I saw on Facebook the other day, Paul Enfield Sensei posted a how do you differentiate between the two?
Hmm.
And there are all these different sort of focus points, and the more I read it, I'm like, yeah, that's we do both. It's
Mm.
like that Japanese precision, that how to do things, like breaking it down to the nth degree, so you really kind of understand like how to do all of this stuff. And then the Okinawan influence being like the why, so all the practicalities, like this is what you're really doing, and getting that sort of even further understanding. And being part of Seiwakai, sort of, we had such a strong Japanese influence, and I think for my own mindset, I was very much I like order. I like things to be done in a very set way. It's like um, sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not so good. But just that like that following that strict path of like A B C D, right? It's going to be like this. So that really attracted me with the Japanese side of things. And the last decade or so, there's been more and more Okinawan influence to um, not just the way I train, but the way I teach. Um, excuse me. So when I'm teaching in the regular classes, or we have our seminars, whether I'm teaching for my group or somebody else's, or we're doing a gashaku in the summer and winter, um, I I'm much more relaxed in the approach, and as long as they're understanding the principles, and not I don't it doesn't matter if you can't do it exactly so, because that's the bit that will take time and practice, but you understand the underlying principles, like, then that means you're on that right path. um, we within Goju, with what we teach, uh, seeing that there are more clubs now doing what we also do. Um, so we have like you got your standards, so you got your standing basics, your moving basics, you got your kata. Our applications are very much um, street based, so it's not karate versus karate. It's like we're not going to step through and do a lunge punch and then block get embrai. It's like it's someone swinging at your head or someone trying to grab you, and that's been like a really strong influence throughout our training for oh God, yeah, certainly like the last 15 years, doing more and more of that. We incorporated more sweeps, throws, takedowns, stand-up grappling, groundwork, and if I'd go to different seminars with other groups, one person in particular, Gavin Mulholland, is a good friend, and seeing what he does, and he kind of opened my eyes to even more, which especially in terms of like the weapons as well. So that spurred me to go right. I want to get more of an understanding. I've done some weapons before. Now I want to sort of expand on that. So which got me into the Kabuto. Um, so having that sort of all round um, emphasis, so not just 3K karate, um, trying to encompass everything as much as possible, but having it as a progressive development. We just we rewrote our syllabus last year as we looked at some of the sticking points. Like there were two big ones that we found, and it was ones where there was like a massive leap in learning and what they had to focus on and develop, and so there was a lot of dropout at those two stages. So we've now rewritten the syllabus so that it's a much smoother sort of course of progression. So there's no massive leaps now. It's just a constant trend of going up. So
Yeah, that's one of the problems I had. I done very similar things. So usually the karate syllabus is the broadest on the bottom and then go stop. So you got a very steep curve on the beginning. So it better to invert it and just go, like you said, linear up
hmm,
without the big jumps and overwhelming students.
yeah,
So it's nice to see you doing that, and nice to see that more and more people looking critically and using the the coaching methodologies of modern day instead of feudal Japan.
yeah.
What's your plans for the future with the club?
Well, I'm still young, so I'm 45. No, I'm 44. Hang on. Yes, I'm 44. So I've still got a lot of life in me. But for my own training, I want to just continue expanding and learning and growing, as is for I'm sure a lot of people. In terms of the club, I'd love for it to um, rebuild in terms of longevity, because there will be a day when I won't be able to do this anymore.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe like 30, 40 years down the line. Um, but I'd love for love for us to reach the point where I can I can hand the reins over, um, and I don't want to be sort of I am the big Kahuna or anything like that. It's like just yeah, it's like okay, well I can't teach, but there's this lineup of fantastic instructors who can all teach absolutely phenomenal sessions, seminars, events, and that they are just as passionate as I am.
Mhm.
Uh, Although I think I set the bar quite high on that one. But yeah, yeah, so being able to expand SRK, and if someone moves to another part of the country, another part of the world, if they wanted to, then go, okay, well, why don't you run a dojo? Pass on the 20 plus years of stuff that we've been doing and share that with the world.
Awesome. Where people can find you?
So our website, seitoukarate.com, socials at Seitou Karate. So all the usuals: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We don't do Twitter. So yeah, so Seitou Karate, just look for that anywhere. Or if you even just look for me, I am, as far as I'm aware, the only Richard Hang Hong on social media.
Cool. Richard, thank you very much. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Absolute pleasure, Les. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to catching up with you in person soon.
Yeah, likewise.